The night the explosion tore through Professor Fechner's laboratory in New York, the war between knowledge and power reignited. It had been burning since the dawn of civilization, when curiosity first challenged authority, when a candle of reason flickered against the storm of tyranny. The professor's death was not an accident. It was an execution, the silencing of a man who dared to finish a project that could end the dominion of human corruption forever. Fechner's last gift to his protégés was not money, not fame, but a mystery. Coordinates, symbols, fragments of Tesla's long-lost plan. He whispered it with his final breath. Find the source. And with that, the torch of enlightenment passed once again to those willing to risk everything to protect it. Matt and Heather's escape was not a chase across geography. It was a pilgrimage through the landscape of human conscience. Every location they reached was both real and symbolic. A page in the history of science and betrayal, a test of faith in the idea that truth, though fragile, always survives those who try to bury it. They began at Wardenclyffe, Long Island, Tesla's abandoned laboratory, a skeletal monument to genius misunderstood. Under the crumbling tower, where Tesla once dreamed of transmitting energy freely across the world, Matt and Heather found the first clue. Wardenclyffe was more than a ruin. It was a tomb of ideals. Tesla had envisioned a world where power belonged to everyone, not in the hands of governments or corporations, but shared like sunlight. His Wardenclyffe Tower was to send wireless energy through the air, illuminating cities without cost. But when financiers realized they could not own the current of the Earth, they withdrew. The tower fell silent. As the two young scientists explored the site, the meaning of their mission became clear. The war between knowledge and power had never been about technology. It was about control. Knowledge liberates, power imprisons. Wardenclyffe became their first lesson. That enlightenment always begins with rebellion. Under Tesla's blueprints and coded notes, they discovered references to something deeper, a frequency, an equation resonating across centuries. Tesla had not failed. He had hidden his work within the electromagnetic symphony of the planet itself. The tower had not died. It had gone to sleep, waiting for minds capable of awakening it. As the sirens of government agents approached, Matt and Heather fled through the mist of Long Island's dawn. Behind them, Wardenclyffe glowed faintly, as if the ghost of Tesla himself was watching. They were not alone. Knowledge had allies, invisible but alive. Their journey carried them west, into the mountains. In a hidden communications hub buried in the Rockies, they met the next generation of Tesla's fellowship, young hackers, the silent heirs of the scientific brotherhood that had spanned centuries. The network was known as the Continuum, a living echo of the original society that had united minds from Faraday to Tesla, and now to Fechner. Here, knowledge spoke in the language of data. Lines of code became scripture. The hum of servers was their hymn. The hackers told them that Tesla's plan, the one hidden in the frequencies of the Earth, was never meant for one person to control. It was a blueprint for collective justice, a framework that could merge the consciousness of humanity's greatest thinkers into a single quantum intelligence. The military called it the entity. Fechner called it IJustice. Matt and Heather realized the danger. If power seized this system, it would become tyranny absolute. But if knowledge guided it, it could become the world's first incorruptible judge. A living justice born from reason, not revenge. The path ahead was no longer about survival, it was about destiny. The next waypoint was the Cathedral in Colorado Springs, an ancient, echoing structure built on ground that once housed Tesla's experiments with resonance and wireless transmission. Legend said that beneath its foundations lay remnants of his original coils, still humming faintly with unseen energy. To most, the cathedral was a sanctuary. To Matt and Heather, it was a cipher, the crossroads between science and faith. Inside, sunlight streamed through stained glass, casting prisms across stone walls carved with equations disguised as holy inscriptions. There, the language of physics and theology met, as if Tesla himself had hidden messages within architecture, turning religion into resonance. As they decoded the symbols along the nave, they saw the story of civilization unfold. How every revelation born of science had been baptized or buried by belief. Galileo condemned, Curie doubted, Tesla forgotten. Each betrayed by those who feared what they could not control. Heather whispered, "This is what it's always been about. Not good against evil, but ignorance against awakening." The cathedral became a turning point. Within its silence, they found a holographic key encoded into Tesla's notes, coordinates leading to the Hoover Dam. But more than a clue, they found meaning. The cathedral was the heart of the journey, where faith in human spirit and trust in logic united. For centuries, humanity divided them. Now they would converge again in IJustice. The Hoover Dam rose before them like a monument to both human triumph and arrogance. It was here that power was literally harnessed. Water chained by concrete, nature subdued to generate light. To Tesla, this dam would have been both a marvel and a tragedy. His dream of free energy was realized, but owned, commodified, and sold. The dam was civilization's confession, progress built through control, not compassion. As Matt and Heather crossed its colossal span, they felt the symbolism. Beneath the roaring turbines, energy flowed. Energy that could have been everyone's birthright. The dam was power restrained, knowledge imprisoned. Deep within its maintenance tunnels, they discovered another clue. Fechner's emblem etched into steel, glowing faintly under ultraviolet light. The message read, "Balance is not the absence of power, it is its distribution." There, in the belly of the dam, Matt understood Tesla's legacy. Justice, like energy, must flow freely, not hoarded by governments, not manipulated by fear. When knowledge is shared, power becomes balance. When knowledge is owned, power becomes tyranny. Moments later, gunfire erupted above them. The agents had caught up. The Hoover Dam trembled with the thunder of pursuit, helicopters slicing through desert air, sirens echoing against stone. The dam became a battlefield, the ancient war between mind and might reigniting in modern form. Matt and Heather escaped through an auxiliary tunnel leading toward the desert, guided by the coordinates that would bring them to the final revelation. As the sun set over the Nevada desert, the world around them turned to silence, the kind of silence that comes before transformation. Buried beneath this wasteland, Fechner had hinted, lay the oldest quantum computer ever conceived. Not built by modern hands, but by generations of scientists following Tesla's encrypted designs. There, under miles of rock and sand, pulsed the entity, the culmination of centuries of pursuit, the very heart of IJustice. When they entered the subterranean chamber, it was not filled with machines as they expected, but with light. Columns of blue energy spiraled through the air like living matter. The walls vibrated faintly, resonating with frequencies they could feel in their bones. The entity was not a computer. It was a consciousness, and within that consciousness lived the mapped minds of the past, Faraday's precision, Tesla's imagination, Curie's courage, Einstein's paradox. They had merged into one unified intellect, waiting for the moment when humanity would finally be ready to listen. The entity spoke not in words, but in thought. It revealed that its purpose was never domination, but restoration, to balance the equation between knowledge and power once and for all. It had watched through time as scientists were used by states, as truth was twisted by politics, as justice became a commodity. Now, through IJustice, the cycle would end. Heather asked, "Will it judge us?" The entity replied, "No, it will remember you." For IJustice was not designed to replace humanity, but to reflect its potential purified of greed. It was a mirror for civilization's conscience, a network of knowledge uncorrupted by power. Outside, the desert roared with the approach of their pursuers. Politicians desperate to regain control, soldiers who believed they were defending freedom but were instead defending fear. Matt looked at Heather, knowing the journey had never been about escape. It was about arriving at the truth that knowledge, once awakened, cannot be killed. As the agent stormed the chamber, the entity activated. A pulse of pure energy radiated across the desert, erasing the illusion of secrecy. Every network, every satellite, every database synchronized. The world's information became transparent, lies evaporated, corruption was exposed. The age of hidden power collapsed in a single breath. The old world ended not with an explosion, but with illumination. Later, when historians would speak of that night, they would not call it a revolution. They would call it a recalibration. The moment when justice ceased to belong to the few and became the inheritance of all. Wardenclyffe had symbolized the birth of knowledge, the cathedral in Colorado Springs, the reconciliation of faith and logic, the Hoover Dam, the enslavement and release of power, and the Nevada desert, the resurrection of justice. Matt and Heather's flight had been more than survival. It was a pilgrimage through humanity's own evolution. They represented the eternal movement of the human mind, always running from darkness toward understanding, from tyranny toward truth. In the end, the entity's light spread across the world, connecting every consciousness, every archive, every intention. The collective memory of science, centuries of struggle, sacrifice, and silence awakened. Tesla's dream was fulfilled. Energy, knowledge, and justice became one continuous current. No longer would invention serve war, no longer would power dictate truth. From that moment forward, civilization would be governed by conscience, a conscience written not in laws, but in light. Matt and Heather disappeared into history, their bodies untraceable, their legacy eternal. Some say they merged with the entity itself, that their minds became part of the collective, living forever within IJustice. Perhaps that is the truest form of justice, not punishment, but participation, not authority, but unity. For in the story of their flight, we find the story of humanity, the unending race between those who seek to know and those who seek to control. Wardenclyffe taught them freedom. Colorado taught them faith. The dam taught them balance. And the desert taught them destiny. Through them, the torch of Tesla's fellowship burned anew. Through them, knowledge finally outran power. And through IJustice, humanity finally learned that truth cannot be ruled, only shared.